You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. Chris Voss here from the ChrisVossShow.com. The Chris Voss Show. Welcome to the big show, my family and friends. We really appreciate you. And today, once again, we're going to do some learning. There's going to be some learning in. I don't know. That's the thing. Whatever. Just making it up. That's the ramble, folks. That's what we do. We make it up. We're going to do some learning today, and we've got some great New York Times bestselling authors on the show. They're going to be talking to us about their latest book that just came out April 4th, 2023. Can you believe it's almost May? Jesus, where'd this month go? Anyway, guys, as always, we're going to get to them in a second. But in the meantime, we have to shame you, guilt you, and try and motivate you to put 5 people in your downline by subscribing to the Chris Voss Show MLM. No, I'm just kidding. It's not MLM. But seriously, though, tell people that they should subscribe to the show. Give us those 5-star reviews on iTunes. Go to youtube.com/Chris Voss, goodreads.com/Chris Voss, linkedin.com/Chris Voss. And oh, yeah, we're working on the show over at TikTok now. There's TikTok Chris Voss 1, and there's TikTok, the Chris Voss Show Podcast, and there's my dogs over there, too. They have their own account we just set up, Huskies of Chris Voss. You can find it over there, and all the links to the Chris Voss Show. It's at TikTok. It's where all the kids are. It's where all the stupidity is, too, but that's another story. Anyway, guys, the amazing authors we have on the show, Kelly Starrett and Juliet Starrett, are the authors on today's show. They've written a multitude of books. Their newest book just came out April 4th, 2023, Built to Move, the 10 Essential Habits to Help You Move Freely and Live Fully. For those of you who want to live freely and live fully. For those of you who don't, you can skip the show because, I don't know, death sounds really cool. But don't do that. Listen to the show and you'll enjoy it. You'll learn something and you'll move freely and live fully. Welcome to the show, Kelly and Juliet. How are you?
We're great. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, what an intro. Every time you nail it.
I try. And sometimes we whiff one, but it's always a ramble and it's always random and whatever bleeds out of my brain. And there we are. So Kelly, Juliet, give us your .com so people can find you on the interwebs there.
Sure. We are at thereadystate.com. And if you want to learn more about our book specifically, it's builttomove.com.
There you go. And you guys have written a few other books if we want to get a plug in for them as well. How many books have you written?
So I think we're at 6 books. One of them is the 2 editions, but our first book was called Becoming a Supple Leopard. We also wrote another book called Ready to Run, a third book called Deskbound, a little book for paddlers called Waterman 2.0, and then we did a second edition of Supple Leopard and now Built to Move. So if my math is correct, I think that's 6 books.
All right, now I have to ask, what's a supple leopard? Is that, I don't know, me on Friday nights in a leotard or?
Nailed it. That's exactly what this is about. Ultimately, can people do what they're supposed to with their body? And can you access that at a moment's notice? Can you feel better and move the way you're supposed to? And that was really the sort of central idea of trying to re-empower people with their bodies. You know, we just get stuck in these little windows of movement. All of a sudden, you can't put your arms over your head. And that was the whole idea originally 10 years ago when we wrote Supple Leopard.
So what is a supple leopard, though? Is it just,
tell that story, Kels.
Like, well,
we had a couple of reasons. One of us, we had a friend who was in Navy Special Warfare. He came back. He'd been shot in Afghanistan, and he's like, Kelly, I really appreciate all the work you're doing. I'm feeling better, but the leopard never stretches. And I was like, it's a really good point, Andy. You're not a leopard. And by the way, that I don't know if you notice this, but the leopard can attack and defend at full physical capacity and at a moment's notice. It doesn't really have to do all these elaborate things. It can
literally be like laying in a tree, taking a nap and
leopard.
Be like, oh, look, there's a kudu. Here I go.
That's me when I have my coffee in the mornings. We talked about in the green room.
And as soon as you hit that skull crusher, I think is what you called it, and then you go right into it. So that sort of idea came out of this joke with our friend about, and then the word supple is just too fantastic. And so that alliteration together, we knew that we would never, ever be mistaken for anyone else. So the idea was born about how can we teach people, and this first book was really a heavy duty textbook, but how do we give people their range of motion back? How can we move the physical therapist and the physician out of the conversation and re-empower people in their own homes and in the gyms to actually feel better and take care of their bodies?
There you go. And here I thought it was a strip club name. So anyway, guys, all jokes aside. So anyway, guys, what motivated you want to write this book, Built to Move?
Well, I'll start, and I'm sure Kelly can add some color commentary, but, we've been working with performing athletes for over 20 years, from every major sport to Olympians to elite military units. And, what we realized is that if we just took the lessons we learned there and did nothing with them, then that was just sport and had no ultimate purpose. And the other thing we saw is that, thanks to the internet, there is a massive amount of health and fitness information out there.
It's a fire hose.
And for everybody who doesn't have the luxury of being able to have a personal trainer and a coach and an athletic trainer and a massage therapist
and a PhD to sort through
and a PhD to sort through all of the madness, that those people ultimately were very confused and weren't really sure where to start, weren't sure what to prioritize, weren't sure which levers were going to move, which were going to move the biggest levers for them from a health standpoint. And, when you look at the data actually out there about our overall health as a country, I mean, people are now spending trillions of dollars on health and fitness and belonging to gyms and supplements and you name it. But all of our metrics are still trending downhill. We're becoming more heavy, more diabetic. There's more back pain, disability, loneliness, depression, you name it. If you look at any statistic of health, we're not doing a great job. And so we felt
and that speaks to the failure of this institution of health, right? This commoditization of health.
We call it the fitness industrial complex.
Yeah.
And so we felt like there were a lot of really small things that we do in our own lives. And those are the same things that we recommend as the basic and foundational practices of our elite performers that we could actually share with a broader audience and really make a difference in people's lives and overall health.
And let me add that this has got to exclude diet and exercise. Yes, we're going to talk about fueling for and making sure you have the right nutrients on so you have healthy tissues. We all want that, right? So that our knees don't hurt. But people have gotten the message that they should exercise, and that still hasn't worked. And what we realized is that we could create a set of physical behaviors, kind of thinking differently about our world and in our busy schedules from when we wake up to when we go to bed, that didn't include exercise. And if you did all of these things, lo and behold, you could actually feel better and create more durability. So you can take the hits, take the stress, and be ready to go when you want to go, and do that as long as you want.
And I think that's one of the things that's very controversial. I mean, we obviously love exercise. We owned a commercial gym for 16 years. We exercise for fun. But what we've really learned over the years is in many ways, exercise is extracurricular, which is controversial. We think it's important. There's a lot of great elements to it, but there are so many other things that are low-hanging fruit that people can do for their health that can be done in short amounts of time that make a huge difference.
There's some people that have been saying that sitting is the new smoking. Like if you're sitting too much, you're never moving. It's almost as dangerous as, smoking some cigarettes. I haven't really tried it. I never got into the smoking part.
You could race them. You could definitely race them and see how that went. That's actually James Levine of the Mayo Clinic, who's one of the preeminent obesity researchers on the planet. And what he realized, and I think we caught on it, and then we were all like, that's funny and kind of, witty and sticks in our head, but it's not sitting is bad. Let's get rid of that. Let's say that not moving is less good. And so we have a bunch of friends who have jobs. They fly planes.
Our bus drivers.
They cannot not sit as part of their job. You might have to sit down and focus at work. But it's two things. One is that we're really saying, hey, marathon bouts of inactivity are less good for your body. And two, how can we combat that idea of like, if you had to stand, you had a job where you had to stand still all day long, it was murder. And that also doesn't work. What we're looking at is how can we create more opportunities for you to move more in your environment? And the research now is pretty unequivocal. Human beings' brains and our bodies work better when we move. Turns out, for example, that the difference really in the research between people who are able to maintain their weight over a lifetime and people who struggle with their weight isn't exercise. It's not even the kinds of diet. It's how much activity they have day to day. So just having to walk more, fidget more, be up and down, just be active. It's sort of built-in calorie control.
There you go. Fidgeting more. You know, it's funny how sedentary